Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Dark Knowledge. Dave Cottingham here with Coup Master Coup.
Good to be back.
Yes.
Good to be back.
Got your little Disney dad
yeah.
shirt going on.
Disney dad. Disney.
All right, thanks
dad.
everybody for joining us. This is the series here on our YouTube channel where we tap into the dark side of the Force a little bit, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
We don't go full dark side here.
There's a lot. Oh well, I'm full dark side. You're like dark Jedi right now. You're like not necessarily. You're just kind of in between.
The gray, maybe, right?
Gray. Yeah.
Just on this show, though, I'm full light side though. Beyond that,
yeah.
So we've been, we've been talking about some shows to do here. We've got some laid out, but one in particular here that I wanted to dive into that was pretty interesting. It's based on an interview that recently came out and some articles that have been written. And it's mainly about this whole notion about Darth Maul and the fact that he was. There was a possibility that he was going to end up being the Grievous character in episode 3. So let's go back a little. Let's just break that down a little bit. So,
because you had found it before I did. How fresh was it when you found it? Was it new?
Those articles had just come out. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was a recent, I believe there was a recent interview with Lucas, and there was something about him mentioning how, Darth Maul we had originally thought about Darth Maul as coming back as General Grievous in that kind of droid, android kind of cyborg kind of style, right?
Same kind of thing, yeah.
Because, obviously, as everybody knows, Darth Maul was cut in half by Obi-Wan in episode 1. So he would have come back sooner, obviously, than the Clone Wars, because we know he ends up coming back in the Clone Wars, which is years after episode 3 had come out. So he would have come back in episode 3 as this mechanical droid type warrior.
Like a cyborg thing.
Cyborg, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, a little less than what Grievous is now, I'm sure. I'm sure they had to... I guess we'll get into that, but they probably had to do some serious stuff to make that work, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyways,
that's kind of the first thing. Well, the first question I think that I want to dive into is, overall, would you have liked that was Darth Maul in that role?
Well, first let me go back to when you first told me about this. I wasn't really when you first said, well, General Grievous could have been Maul, or supposed to be Darth Maul's kind of comeback and kind of conclusion there. I couldn't picture it. I couldn't until I read those articles, and I don't know if you can include those articles, because they were eye opening. Because there are two interesting sides to it. One's kind of I feel like for it. One's kind of like, no, that'd have been terrible. They were pretty far along. Right? They were pretty far along, and it was like a quick kind of change, I think, and then you look at the parallels of them two, and it makes sense, like their dialogue and stuff. So when I first heard it, it took me a second to process it. After reading both of the articles, I think there still could. I think there's still. I'd have been fine with it. I'd have been ecstatic about it because it's my favorite character. But I don't think that would have been. It didn't have to be the end of Darth Maul. At the end of that, they could have brought him back. Excuse me, and done the same things they did in the cartoons. So I'm for it, because I think they could have done it, and that would have made it awesome. I love General Grievous, but Darth Maul would have been awesome to see, again, in live action.
Yeah, I think it really would have depended entirely on, to be honest, what he looked like.
Yeah, well, you need some of the all the iconic things back, I would think.
Right. Well, see, if he would have come back like he did in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Then,
like horns and like the he did.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! If he'd have come back like that, yeah, that'd have been
Like his whole body and,
unreal.
and like maybe just like mechanical legs, which he ended up getting.
Yeah.
But I think that would have been, that would have been too obvious for one. Cause I think his intention was that he was supposed to be somewhat of a mystery, like he was supposed to be General Grievous, but I think it was supposed to end up turning out, you were going to find out that, he was
Really?
Maul reborn in a sense.
So you didn't know, you wouldn't have
I don't think you were supposed to know.
Golly.
Like, I don't think it was supposed to be that obvious because I think it was, he died because you remember episode 1 was 13 years before episode 3. So there was no one knew that he had come back yet until around this time.
Crazy. I wasn't thinking of it like that. Like I thought they had to do, like, I thought they were animating, like he was done up, and then they were like, no, we're not doing this. So they kind of, whatever.
Really?
Raster, what's the, whatever, redid it and
re-rendered.
Re-rendered and, but you're saying that he looked the way he looked now.
Well, a version of it, not necessarily exactly, but I think it was more mechanical than the obvious Maul.
Would not have liked that.
Would not have liked that. Okay.
No, I need the face, like the tattoos and the horns and the double-sided lightsaber. Or at least, what he had.
Well, I think, that would have been interesting if he would have had the red sabers. But, when it comes down to that, it really depended on what he looked like, because I think if it was a cross between the two, and then it was maybe this lingering question that you had when you first watched it, like, wait a minute, is that Maul? Maybe it could be Maul. And then you kind of find out later that it is or whatever. But I guess that goes into like the overall storyline, because, this all started with Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know in episode 3, it turns out that Obi-Wan is the one that destroys and kills General Grievous.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have actually made sense still, because the overarching arc of him completing the mission, right, of killing Darth Maul / General Grievous. But I don't know if is that as satisfactory? Would that have been as satisfactory as what we end up getting, with Clone Wars and Rebels?
When you described it like that, and you're telling me that if you were to just erase the name General Grievous, put in Darth Maul, and you're wanting me to be okay with the way they did that? No. No way. And like, he got nerfed again, because he got nerfed in the first one. He was good, but like the fact that Obi-Wan killed him was bullcrap. And then this one, he'd have been completely nerfed. Like, no force, no, motorcycle. Like, I don't know, the coughing. Like, it's like, God. I mean, the coughing wouldn't have been, I guess, the worst thing, but still, like. Yeah, that would have been a huge letdown, and I would have wanted more. But they've done, well, I'll always want more. But what they've done instead, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if that was going to be the end of Maul forever, that's all I got, I would be super depressed. What I got now, I'd much rather have now, because there's so much more,
Mm-hmm.
And if that was because that didn't happen, super, all for it. Even though the fight in the desert with Obi-Wan was awesome, but yes, he died, and that's the worst. And it was again like, what the heck? Like, come on. But at that point, I mean, it makes sense. But no, man, that would be really, like, people. I feel like people would be like, what? Like, that was Darth Maul. Like, what the heck? Like,
I know.
He didn't even fight, really. Like, he kicked him a couple. I don't know. Oh man, yeah, that'd be terrible.
Yeah, and we would have still gotten, or had the possibility of still have seen him in the Clone Wars, right? Because the Clone Wars takes place before Episode 3.
Right, but that was, I mean, yeah, that was still, he was like a coward. Like, Grievous was like he kind of escaped and left. And
yeah, what I'm saying is that if they had turned Maul into Grievous, then when George went and did the Clone Wars, then he would have probably brought that character back, and we would have seen him in the Clone Wars. It would have been different storylines, obviously, because he would have already been established. It wouldn't have been the Maul that we come to know that got discovered by his brother Savage.
You still would have had that story of how he got to be where he was as Grievous. Right.
Correct. Right, you would have saw that birth, which I think thinking about it I think that would have been really cool.
But he was,
because that would have been the big lingering question. I think if all of a sudden we saw him in Episode 3, it'd be like, well, how did this happen?
How did he become such a idiot? Like, how did he become such a coward? Like,
pretty
running
much
away, and like that would be so sad. I mean, it would be a sad story because but see, those movies those tones were, it was almost common. Like, he was almost comedic at times, Grievous, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's just not Maul. He's not comedic. You know what I mean?
Like, it would have definitely been done differently, I feel like. And plus, you know, just the sight and thought of Obi-Wan, because I think that's what they've done. They did such a good job of, is after all these years, this hatred for Obi-Wan just kept brewing and brewing and brewing. And I think just the sight of him would have like set him off in a sense of hatred and wanting. But here's the thing too, you got to think about this aspect. That would have probably made Grievous, or whatever, Maul, Grievous, he would have been Force sensitive, obviously.
Yeah, he should, but Grievous absolutely was none of that.
None of that, no. So that would have changed, I think, a little bit of the storylines too, right? He would have been able to use the dark side and.
Well, how much did they change it from after they decided? Because like, I'm thinking, okay, either Lucas had the decision made and he was like, it's going to be Darth Maul, and then they said, like, they had already filmed and done all that with Grievous, and then he was going to be like, okay, the third one he's going to turn out to be Maul, and he was like, no, we're not going to do that. But they'd already filmed all these parallels, right? Like they set it up, right? They have already set it up, but they didn't put in the ending that he was Maul. So there was that, which is already like Grievous is done the way he was done. It just put that little line, I'm Darth Maul, in there, and it's all, you know what I mean? Or are you saying right now, like, looking back and saying, like, if they had done it a certain way, you're saying you'd have been okay with that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I think so.
Because I think those are two separate, totally questions. Like, one, are you okay with it with the way it is now? And two, let's go crazy. Like, what would you have done, like, different to make him Maul better?
Yeah, I think I would have. I think at least just in what I've read and what I've seen is that I think it wasn't until he started writing Episode 3 that he thought, I can bring Maul back this way. Mm-hmm. I don't think there was any intention in Episode 2, like, to say Maul is coming back or anything.
That was already the way, which is a big problem. Like, the way he was already in 2, I think it would have been a terrible idea to.
I think it would have been too. Yeah.
If it was already set in like, but it wasn't. Like, 2 was done as a separate character, and then 3. Can we put a twist and make this?
Yeah, I think he needed like a leader of the army, the droid army, and you know, he came up with this Maul. You know, can Maul come back as a kind of half droid kind of mechanic? And I think, like you said, I think there was concept art and there was a way to do it, but then ultimately, I think he said, no, let's just make it a new character. But if he had made it Maul, again, I think that he would have had the backstory in his head, which we would have seen during the Clone Wars, which I think would have made, again, I think it would have made that interesting. Like him still getting found and him getting put together and, but we would have seen a more angry Grievous in a sense, / Maul. And he would have been, I think, even more vengeful and more determined to find Obi-Wan and kill him basically as much as he did. Now,
I'm looking at Grievous right now.
I think the biggest question beyond that, because I think I would have been very on board with that storyline. Like I think the Clone Wars would have been really good. But here's the thing: is I do think he could not survive beyond Episode 3. Like I think that main plot point of destroying the general was the way of destroying the army, the droid army. So then we get robbed of everything beyond that, right? So the guy that ends up running Crimson Dawn, the guy that ends up fighting on Malachor with Ahsoka, and like that whole thing was incredible. And then ultimately the showdown with Obi-Wan in the desert on Tatooine. So it's like all that would have been gone. I think. I don't think you can continue that because by the time you get to that, in the end, he doesn't look like Maul. The way they did it now, he does. He is Maul. He looks like Maul. So that's why I would have been. I think during as it happened, I think it would have been like, wow, this is pretty neat. I love how they brought the villain back from Episode 1 to Episode 3 and then closed the trilogy. I get it. But in the end, I think I like the way he did it. Yeah. By bringing Maul back in the Clone Wars the way he is. And especially that, I think it was the end of the end of season 4 or season 5 when Palpatine finds out he's around and comes after him, and that's awesome.
When he fought, it's been so long since I've seen those, but he fought him in Apprentice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they fought.
He killed Savage.
He killed him. But was that the first time we saw the double? Did it go like,
yes.
He had 2?
Yes.
That was crazy. I remember I think I remember the previews for that being like, wow, and I can talk all night about the Emperor, but that's just so cool when he lets loose like that. It's interesting.
Yes.
And could he have? He probably could have killed. Yeah, he could have killed Maul, but he used him for something else. I can't really remember what he.
Well, he captured him, and then Maul eventually escapes, which was in one of the comics.
It's woulda, coulda, shoulda, or woulda, shoulda, coulda. It's like hard to go back, but the interesting concept nonetheless. Which I'm thinking, like, why now? Like why did someone just ask him the right question, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, I was going to do that. Like that's right, I forgot." That's like. I think there was a rumor out there that had leaked that maybe the stunt coordinator had mentioned that was a possibility, and then they asked him. So, yeah, I think that's how it came out. Because it's either like a junket thing or someone, or like a convention thing, or he's just like sitting there like his old sitting like, "Hey, Grandpa, tell us about." It's like, "Oh yeah, I was gonna make Darth Maul have angel wings." It's like, really? Did you really? Were you really gonna make Darth Maul or Grievous Darth Maul?
Yeah,
it's an interesting concept. I wish, I wonder just how much of that kind of stuff he has in his brain that, we don't even know about. How close was? We know all of the famous ones, right? Like the Skywalker in Star Killer and then Mace Windu's lightsaber. Like, we know how that happened. Like, we know all those stories. But I wonder what we don't know.
Well, like in Return of the Jedi, the Ewoks were supposed to be all Wookiees.
Oh, I may have known that at one point.
Yeah, you knew. I think you knew that. They just couldn't find a lot of 7-foot people. So
yeah.
So he made them short.
I'll be dang.
But that would have been neat because that would have been, that technically would have been Kashyyyk, and then you would have had Wookiees, which would have made more sense that they should have been able to overpower the Empire.
Yeah.
You know? Like Ewoks can't really do that, but
they're they're tricksters.
But they did. Yeah, they did. Unexpectedly. That was the cool thing about it, I think.
That's pretty wild. I mean, two big, huge logs, they probably weren't even thinking about that, but they had to have known that those things were out there. How did they not see that? Like, okay, TC-12, we got we've got two humongous logs attached to makeshift ropes up here. Don't bring the chicken walkers this way. I don't know. They didn't do anything.
No,
you've got to see that on your recon, man.
Yeah. I guess one of the last things to kind of hit on this thing is really, because not only are we talking about Obi-Wan, or are we talking about Maul and Grievous and how that affects him, I think the main reason for me, in a way, that I'm glad it worked out the way it did, is because I felt like it actually gives more meaning to Obi-Wan as well. Because I think that would have been shortchanging Obi-Wan's experience with him if you had brought him back in Episode 3. Because those moments in the Clone Wars,
Obi-Wan is like the main character. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, Obi-Wan is crazy. Like, and it's not too far fetched that people would hate him because of how awesome he was, and just he disrupted and survived and everything. But I'm with you. I like where you're. Yeah, I mean,
because those episodes in the Clone Wars, especially when Maul does interact with Obi-Wan, and you can tell that there's this. I mean, literally, their conflict lasts nearly 30 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's quite a bit of it we still don't know from Maul too. So
that's right. That's right.
Man, that is. It's like, give it to me. It's like, what's that meme? He's that kid, like, slams his card on the table, and he's like, take my card, take my money. Like, I just want, like, take my money. You know what you know what I want. You know what the people want? They want more Maul. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah, they've kind of set it up to where there's definitely more that they can go with him, because introducing him as the leader of Crimson Dawn, and
which is cool. All that's so cool.
Absolutely.
The whole Mandalorian thing is cool. It's like, wait, I don't always have to sit and think about this for a second. He is alive during the Mandalorian, right?
No.
When did he die?
He died like maybe a couple of years before Episode 4.
Yeah, from 4. Okay, that's right.
He was.
That's right, because Luke was little.
Yes,
and Obi-Wan was there,
and he was. But he had, he was basically ruling Mandalore years before that.
You could see him on Obi-Wan maybe one day.
That's the thing, is like I was interested. I was curious when, because they put Solo out there where they brought him back in live action, right?
Yeah,
and that was 10 years before A New Hope. Well, Obi-Wan takes place 10 years around the same time, 10 years after Episode 3, so maybe a year later. So that was interesting to be like, okay, well, Obi-Wan's out in the open now, and Maul, does he get wind that Obi-Wan's still alive? Somehow he finds out, and that could have been a way.
Crimson Dawn, right around that time.
Oh yeah, he is Crimson Dawn at that point, and Kira's starting to take over.
Yeah.
But that's the thing we don't know, is we don't know between Solo, his appearance in Solo, to when we see him on just a frailed, skinny guy on Malachor.
Yeah.
What happens between there? Don't know, because I think it's possible. I think he gets obsessed with finding Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
and
he knows that was the way to do it.
Man, I don't know, but we are going to talk about that. That's going to be a whole nother episode. We're going to talk about Darth Maul.
Yeah, totally.
And all that.
Totally.
But we just wanted to kind of discuss that.
Grievous is cool too.
Grievous is cool. We may talk about him. He's an evil guy. So
yeah.
We might talk about him. I don't think
Very interesting.
his actual backstory now. I don't know what's canon right now because there used to be a backstory and
With him as like a warrior.
yes.
And then
I think that's still true. I just don't know if what all details are fully true about that. But
yeah. And the fact that he, I guess, technically wasn't an apprentice, but then because he wasn't, you know what I mean? Like it's the whole Rule 2 thing. Where does that fall in line with Ventress and Dooku and Emperor? And there's some muddying going on. Around this
he
time.
was basically just a droid general that happened to be trained in lightsaber skills.
Yeah.
But not really anything beyond that. It was an interesting character, definitely.
Yeah.
But
served his purpose.
Yep. And again,
he was a good card or a cool card in Destiny.
Yeah. Oh, in Star Wars, the card game too. He wasn't. Was he in the card game?
No.
We never got Grievous in the card game?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, so I must be thinking of Destiny. Yeah, I must be thinking
because you could attach 4.
Yes.
Or 2 or something 4. I don't know.
Yes.
Interesting.
Okay. Well, that's just a little discussion about that. So we wanted to, obviously continue our dark knowledge conversations. We do have some more lined up. Definitely Darth Maul and definitely just the dark side in general because there's a lot there to dissect and talk
so
through
much to talk about
as we open these Sith holocrons.
Yes.
Carefully, very carefully. Yeah, that's your dark knowledge stuff. Yeah. All right. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You can catch us, Cory and I, on Dark Knowledge. Occasionally, he'll jump on with Inside the Force as well, and got a lot coming out. Especially Cory, it's great that we have this show. To be honest, because we've got one show particularly centered around this, the Acolyte, that is going to be coming out.
Super juiced for that one.
Yeah, that's up your alley for sure.
I'm watching Bad Batch. I just started Crazy that I hadn't started yet, but I'm just started that today actually, and on episode I think 2 or 3, and it's awesome.
It is
the
awesome,
military whole aspect, seeing Tarkin and some new people. Interesting. I like seeing all that stuff. So
yeah. Forgive him; he's a little behind on the.
Oh, on Bad Batch, I am.
Yeah,
I just wanted to, man. I just missed I love live action, and I needed to. I've seen so much of the cartoons and stuff. I just need to break, and I don't. I mean, yeah.
Well, hey, one week from tomorrow, we've got Mandalorian coming back. So
I know, great. See, I can binge this, and then I have. Well,
that's
I
right.
can't binge Mandalorian, but oh well.
All right, be back here on the YouTube channels. Thank you, everybody, for watching and supporting the show. Thank you, Master Koo.
Yes.
All right. May the Force be with you.